Welcome back again to this show. Guests, we love you very much. And again, today we've been honored to have, one guest just before the other, same day. So I'm really blessed to have two guests in one day. That's amazing. And today we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Miss Michelle, and she's here to tell you about her life, tell you about Jesus Christ, and this way we will be blessed as we have been blessed with the other many great guests whom we have on the show. All right. So thank you for being a faithful listener, and we hope we are going to share with you the word of Jesus Christ in this manner. We are here for you, and we love you very much. Miss Michelle, welcome to the platform. Welcome to the show. Sorry.
Thank you. Thanks for
Uh,
having
yeah,
me.
yeah, please do tell us about yourself, and we can delve into the whole story as the Holy Spirit leads. So welcome. The
Okay,
platform
well,
is yours.
yes, well, I'm honored to be here. And I think it's
Mhm.
amazing to live in the time we do with technology, that we can be
Yes.
across the world from each other and be sharing a podcast. It's amazing. I have a sticker on my computer that says, "Go into all the world and preach the good news."
That is
And
it.
that's what we do as podcasters,
Mhm.
right? We are in
Mhm.
all the world. And I think it's amazing. So thanks for
Mhm.
having me all the way in Kenya. I'm so excited to be here.
Amen.
So I have a lot to my story, so it's kind of hard to know where to start. But I
Don't
think I'll
worry, we
take
have
it.
a lot of time.
Okay, I'll take it
Yeah.
way back to when I
Yes.
met my husband Luke.
Mhm.
So my husband
And
Luke
if
and
you
I
can
went.
go way back, is even okay.
Okay, good, because this
Mm.
is all part of the story. It's
We
all
have to see the Genesis and the Revelation, the whole book.
exactly.
No
So this is
shortcuts.
the
No
genesis of
shortcuts.
this story.
Yes. Yes.
So I met Luke in high school. We went to a Christian high school and we met there.
Mhm.
And we never dated in high school. We were just friends. And then we both went off to college, met other people, but those relationships ended. And then we ran into each other through a mutual friend after
How?
college and we
How?
fell in love. Just a bunch of people, yeah, getting together. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And from there, we started dating. And 3 months later, he asked me to marry him. We just knew right away, which we know now, like, is completely God's timing with everything.
Mm. Mm.
So, Luke had a lump in his ankle. So he was 24 when he first noticed the lump. I was 23 when we got engaged. And it kept getting bigger. And then we got married. I was 24, he was 25. And he went to the doctor again. And they're like, "Oh, it's tendonitis. Don't worry about this." He was healthy, never had any health issues. And then he had to go back again. And they were like, "Okay, let's do a biopsy." And so they biopsied it. And we found out it was a very rare bone cancer called mesenchymal chondrosarcoma, usually found in children. They didn't know how to treat it. So they just started all this chemo, which was absolutely horrible to watch him go through this, lose his hair, throw up, just go from being super healthy to not being healthy. My whole world like crushed, like when I found out he had cancer. I forgot to mention something important too. So we got married in August and we got pregnant in, I believe it was October, November. So totally not our timing, but God's timing. Because then we found out the cancer a couple months after that. So we had our son to look forward to. We were pregnant and like, okay, at least we have that to look forward to during this time. So Luke goes through his chemo and it doesn't shrink, doesn't do any good. And so he decides to have an amputation, to amputate his leg 2 inches below his right knee. And that was a really hard decision because he was like an athlete. And, it was a big choice. I remember we went in front of the church and we asked for prayer and we decided this was what we should do because he had a better chance of living longer. If they just removed the tumor, it would come back quicker. So we decided to do the amputation. And then 2 months after his amputation was when our son Hayden was born. And Luke was on crutches holding my hand, and he didn't even have his prosthetic leg yet. And it was a really hard time because he had to learn to walk again once he did get his leg. And it was just a lot of emotional pain too during that time. But we always consider that day his cancer free day because thankfully the cancer was nowhere else in his body, it was only in his ankle. And so we went on to have two more kids. So we had three kids in 3.5 years, which was a lot. So we had a 3.5-year-old, 18-month-old, and a newborn. But it was a very, very fun time, but also hard because Luke tried to go back to work. He was a mail carrier delivering mail. It was just too much physically on him. So he became disabled and just stayed home. And I worked full time as a teacher. And, life was hard, but we were thankful he did not have cancer. And then fast forward about 13 years later, he had a scan because he was having some pain and they found some tumors in his lungs. And we knew that it was terminal this time. We were told it was terminal. And it was much different going through it with three kids rather than just being pregnant. I think my kids were about 9, 11, and 13 at the time he was diagnosed. And we went through it, very open with him. They already knew all about his first cancer. I had written a book, and they had all but the youngest, I think, had read the book, and they knew a lot about his cancer journey before. We were very positive. We prayed every day that Daddy would be healed. But I let them know that it could be in heaven that he's healed. We pray that it's here, but I didn't want them to think like he's only going to be healed here. And so, he went through chemo again, didn't work again. And he just got worse to the point where they're like, it's just about quality of life now. Like he's not getting better. And, hearing those words, he has 6 to 9 months to live like that. I remember where I was. I was in a parking lot on the phone with the doctor and had to go into the store. And I felt like my whole world was spinning and like, what? How could this be possible? So during those last, 9 months of his life, we really did as much as we could together. We went to Disneyland. We went on lots of trips, like whatever we could, and just really enjoyed the moments. And this was 2020. So March of 2020, of course, was COVID. And so we look at it now as somewhat of a blessing for us personally because the kids were home from school. And we spent every day with Luke. He would sleep about half the day, but when he would get up, we would watch movies, we would play together, hang out, just spend time with him. And it was such a beautiful time to be together. May 22nd of 2020, his hospice nurse came and told him, he's starting to decline more. We're going to have to get a hospital bed, but he did not want that. And we just had a really good day that day, like all the family together. We had a family hug, including our dog. I could just look back at some really special, beautiful moments. And then I woke up May 23rd at about 4 a.m. with the light being turned on, and he was still fully functional. He was in the hall, like looking for medicine or something. And he was like, "Can you get me a heating pad? My calf really hurts. Can you get me ice?" We were trying everything. And he was just having a lot of calf pain, which I didn't understand at the time. And then I called the hospice nurse because he was having trouble breathing, and they told me to put oxygen on him. And I did. And then he was not really able to breathe and he was suffering, and it was horrible. But I'm thankful I'm the only one who saw it. My kids did not. And they told me it was time to wake up my kids so they could say goodbye. And I had just told my kids, I was very open with them about what was going on. The hospice nurse says we've got about a month, maybe 6 weeks left. But I had to wake them up in the middle of the night and say, it's time to say goodbye to Daddy. And I'll never forget Haley, my 14-year-old, screaming like, no, it's not time. And it's not. And the only way that I can describe what happened is that God gave me a supernatural peace. I was not crying. I was completely calm to help lead my kids through this. I was able to call Luke's mom, call my mom, and we just sat on the bed with him for about an hour. We talked to him. I told him, "You're going to hear, 'Well done, my good and faithful servant.' You're going to hear that today. You're going to meet my grandparents." It was like God gave me this like supernatural strength to say all these things, to be calm for my kids. And we sat around and just talked to him. He was with us for about an hour, and he was looking up into the corner, like up to the right, very clearly. His eyes stayed there for about an hour. And we were like, "Are you seeing angels? What's happening?" And later on, I actually, about 2 months later, I'll get back to this part, but 2 months later, I was at a grief retreat and I had a vision. Like God completely showed me that Jesus was up in the corner, like sitting there. It was like the craziest, amazing thing. But anyways, we played the song "I Can Only Imagine," which is about heaven. And that's actually when he took his last breath. Then the hospice nurse came in and said he's no longer with us. And then that's when it was a little bit harder to keep it together, watching my kids kiss their dad goodbye and say goodbye to him. And just there's nothing like it if you've ever experienced seeing someone die. It's you can't explain it. It was his soul was there and then it wasn't. And I after the kids left, my mom was in the room with me and I just laid on the bed and with his body and just cried and cried like a whale so deep you can't explain it when the person you're married to for almost 17 years has died. It was a feeling I've never felt before. We quickly left because our hospice nurse has said you don't want your kids to see them taking his body and all that stuff. We left and coming back. I'll never forget how empty the house felt because he was gone. And even though we prepared for it, we were not prepared. So what actually happened with his calf hurting is the doctor said he had a blood clot that traveled to his heart or lungs, and he didn't survive. But in some ways, it was a blessing because he did not want to be dependent on us, to feed him, to dress him, all those things at the end of life. He would not have wanted that. He was so worried about that. So he didn't have to do that part. Um, but coming back to the house, just feeling so lonely, feeling like nobody gets this. I had great family, great friends, great church, but I didn't really have anyone close to me that was widowed. And so I was like, I feel so alone. Nobody gets what it's like to lose a husband. And I was 41. My husband was 42. And usually you think widows are, much older. And, I just began every day, like crying out to God. Now, when Luke was sick, I did this a lot too. On the floor, just Jesus, help me. Like, that's it. Like, I can't do this. And he always met me with the peace that passes all understanding, like this completely peaceful feeling. Even in those darkest moments, I knew that I was going to be okay. I would often imagine that I was like sitting in his lap crying, like with a father, and he would comfort me. And those first days of grief were very difficult. I mean, you're so busy with like you have to make funeral arrangements, and it's COVID, so there was restrictions, which made it really difficult. But you're just surviving those first few days, and then it became really difficult. My kids all acted in different ways. My oldest, he didn't know where to place his grief, and he kind of acted out. Had a lot of behavior issues. I had to get help with him. Um, just like, God, where are you? Like, I'm so lonely. And actually, in the beginning, I felt like I was being punished. My husband died. Is this a punishment? But God later changed, I'll get to that in a minute, changed that view for me as well. Um, but I just started slowly feeling better. Like, this is how I explain grief to people. Like, in the beginning, it's like dark clouds, it's like a storm every single day. And then one day you see like a cloud break, like a sun break. There's sun shining through the clouds. And you're like, okay, life's going to be okay. And then another day, you might have a longer sun break until like it might be half and half until where I am now, 5.5 years later. It's mostly sunny every day. And I do have storms every once in a while when I go through grief, but it's not what it used to be. And so I started to feel like I was healing. I dove into every grief book I could find. I went to a grief retreat. I talked to everybody I could. I found other widows my age and met with them. I just literally did everything I could. I treated healing like it was my job. And when I work with widows now, that's what I tell them, like, healing is your job. You've got to pour into it. And I really worked to do that. So one of the biggest healing for me came at this grief retreat where God showed me several things. And one of them is what I explained before about seeing Jesus. And I actually got to experience what Luke felt like when he was dying. Like, it was like I was in his body hearing his thoughts. It was like the most amazing thing ever. I felt more peace than I'd ever felt in my life. And I had thoughts like, I'm okay to leave my family, which was his biggest fear, leaving his family. And I feel no pain. And in the vision, I I followed Jesus to heaven. It was amazing. Well, what else he did at this retreat was he reframed what I was thinking. So before I was like, maybe I'm being punished because my husband died. I mean, I had all kinds of thoughts. Well, we did this activity that was really beautiful. I'd never thought of doing something like this before, but it was they had these three wooden crosses and they were overlooking this big river, and it was like the most beautiful scenery, which we later had Luke's celebration of life there. But we did this thing where we dipped our hands in red paint and like put them on the cross, and we were supposed to imagine looking into Jesus's face and feeling his pain. What did he feel like? What was that like on the cross? And in that moment, it was the most supernatural thing also. Like, I felt his pain, and then I fell to the ground and I wailed that deep wail again. And it was the first time I was able to process Luke's death without my kids around and just really process it with someone praying over me. And in that moment, I had this vision, this beautiful vision that Jesus was placing a crown on my head. And he said, I'm so proud of you. And I chose you out of all the people in the world. I chose you to be Luke's wife and to walk with him into his death. And I am so proud of you. And in that moment, everything changed. This isn't a punishment, this is a privilege. I was privileged. And this is the thing that I help widows with. This is the chapter in my book, and this is my podcast episode they hear that like changes everything for them. Like I was chosen. I was chosen. And this speaks to people far beyond just widows. Like if you've lost someone in your life, like you were chosen to be with them. And that moment just was such a beautiful vision of the way that God saw this situation. And it definitely reframed things in my mind that, okay, this is, I'm so blessed that I was Luke's wife. I fulfilled our vows until death do us part. I was there with him, and that changed everything. And so that kind of helped my trajectory of like what I wanted to do with my life. So it's kind of a strange thing. You lose your identity as far as I was a wife. Now I'm not in an instant. I was a teacher. I went back to teaching for a little bit, like teaching elementary kids. And I learned it wasn't for me anymore, that God had a different path. I was not feeling that that was it anymore. And so I started, as I received healing, I started helping other widows. I learned that through technology, there were a lot of widows my age and younger, and all kinds of widows all over the world. The first thing I did was I found a group on Facebook called Young and Widowed with Children. And I met a widower friend, and we had very similar experiences. His wife died from cancer, and so he became one of my closest friends. And we started talking through things. He's also a believer. And we saw in this group that so many people were turning to all the wrong things to fill the void. And we were like, these people need Jesus. And so I came up with the idea we should start a podcast. And so in May of 21, 11 months after my husband died, we started Widow Too Soon, which has now been running for 4 years. And we, for the first 3 years, it was myself and my co host. And we had the perspective of a widow and a widower. He had little kids, I have teenagers, and we talked through just basically everything that you go through as a widow. And when he decided to leave about a year and a half ago, and I was like, okay, maybe this is God saying it's over. Literally, I'm walking through my house and I have this picture in my head, and it's me handing megaphones to people. And I felt like God was saying, there's so many more stories to tell. And so now I do an interview based show where I'm interviewing widows and widowers from all over the world. And it's been amazing to see the impact that is making, because they can relate to my listeners in a way like that I can't, because they might have gone through a similar death as the person I'm interviewing. So that's kind of how the podcast was born. That's one of the first things that I did. Another thing that I did was I tried to find a group for widows. I looked around all the churches in the area. I couldn't find anything, zero. And it's interesting because God talks about widows 103 times in the Bible, yet so few churches have any ministries, any programs, which is something I'm trying to change, which I'll get to in a minute. That's my big passion right now. But because there was nothing, I was like, well, I'll start something. So I started a nonprofit for widows called Widow Goals, and it's widows helping widows not only survive, but thrive. And we started a group in my area that meets once a month. And then other people were like, well, I want to start a group. How do I do it? So I just taught them what I did. And we have 30 groups that are currently running all over US and Canada. And so that became something else I poured my heart into, is like, let's get groups all over the world so that widows can feel supported. Because unfortunately, church is one of the places widows and widowers feel the loneliest, because you feel like you don't fit in. There's families, couples, singles groups, but they're usually for 20-year-olds. You just feel like you don't fit in anymore. And so unfortunately, a lot of widows leave the church. And so what I'm trying to do is get programs into churches so widows don't leave the church. So another thing I did is I went on social media. I got a TikTok account and started talking to widows, and I found thousands of widows all over the world. And I just started sharing what had helped me. So that was another thing I did. And then with my nonprofit, we started retreats. We've done two. We have a third one coming up in January. We have 70 widows registered at this time, and just pouring into them, having worship, having speakers, having communion, and just like loving on these people who are in their darkest times. And it's also like I couldn't do so. Another part of my story, which is a long story, but I'll make it short to go into this part. I couldn't do what I'm doing financially. I don't make any money. It's all like ministry. But I 2.5 years ago, I got married again to my husband Joel, and he supports everything that I do. And so it's interesting because Joel and I actually
Okay.
met in yes.
Okay, just a second. You say the story is long. You're going to make it short. Please don't make it short. Make
Okay,
it as
okay.
long as you can.
I mean, the story of yeah, Joel and I is a little bit longer, but I'm like, I'm going
Oh,
here and I'm going here, but that's okay.
it's
All
fine.
right,
Don't
so
worry.
let me tell you a little bit about Joel and then how he
Please
supports the
don't.
ministry that I do.
All right. All right.
So
It's an
Joel and I
important
went.
bit because it moves us from that phase to this one. So,
That's true.
uh,
That's true.
yes, yes.
There's just so much, so many different parts of my story. So
It's okay.
But you know what? When I was at that grief retreat, I literally heard God speak to me. I don't hear an audible voice, but I heard in my mind two things that were really important. I saw like a vision of when I was young at this camp I grew up in, and I was super joyful. And God said, I'm going to restore the joy of your youth, which has definitely happened. And then I heard, I'm going to redeem and restore everything you lost in your marriage. And I was like, okay. Because my first marriage, Luke was always sick and we never got to go out and do things. And like, so I was like, so I knew from 2 months after Luke died, I knew I was going to get married again because I heard God say that to me. So it wasn't a surprise, when Joel and I reconnected. So Joel and I actually went to college. So remember, Luke and I went to high school together. Joel and I went to college together, both had our lives. He had a divorce and just a whole bunch of awful things happened in his life. My husband died, and then we reconnected through Facebook. Just came across my feed, someone you may know. We weren't even friends at the time. We were acquaintances in college. We have pictures together in college, which is funny, but we were never very close. And anyways, we just started talking. It was about a year after Luke died, and I was at that place where I was like, I think I'm ready. And we just started talking. And right away, he was like, Can I FaceTime you? So we started video chatting. And then we talked every day. And then he was like, Well, he lived in Louisiana, which is halfway across the country from me. He's like, Well, I have family in your area. I'm going to go see them for Thanksgiving and then we can meet up. So he came out here and it was amazing. He told me he loved me that day. And I was like, I love you too, and we knew that like we really want this. And it's also really different dating later on in life. Like it's about like marriage, like there's nothing else, because I mean we have all this baggage, we have families. He has 4 kids,
Yeah,
I have 3 kids. Like,
yeah.
it's serious. And we knew right away like this is it. And so we did a long distance relationship for about a year and a half, and then got married. He moved to my area. We've been married 2.5 years. And so it's been a big, beautiful. I mean, there were so many things that God had to do in order for us to live in the same area, like with all of his work and all of my stuff and my kids. And, it's so beautiful when I think about how God brought us together, because I don't think there's anybody better in the world to support my ministry, because you have to be very special to love someone who's widowed. You have to not be threatened. We have pictures of Luke everywhere. We talk about Luke. I talk about Luke like all the time on podcasts and pictures of him, and Joel's not threatened. Like he knows his place, that I love Luke and I love Joel. Like I can love them both. And I explain it to people when they're like, how do you love another husband? I'm like, well, if you've ever had more than one kid, you get it. You have one and you think, I'll never love another one as much. You have another one and your heart expands. It's the same thing with a late spouse and a spouse. That's how I look at it. So he has been absolutely amazing. He gives me flowers that I put on Luke's grave. He's come with me to Luke's grave. He supports, helps me with my nonprofit, with all the things, and is so good with what I'm doing. And because he financially makes the money, I can do this now. And it's such an amazing thing to be able to. My whole life is basically working with widows now. And I get social media messages every day, and I'm able to, encourage people around the world. Yesterday, where was this person? England? I don't know. People reach out to me from everywhere, wanting encouragement, or like, I saw your post. It's so encouraging. How did you get through? And I can point them. This is what I do. Like, yeah, there's this tool, but ultimately Jesus is the healer. So that's the way, like you're going to get healed. There are lots of tools that we can use, but that's ultimately how I was healed. there's no other way because Jesus turned my mourning to dancing and he has made beauty from my ashes, like complete beauty. The other day, my youngest son, he's 17 now. So my kids are 17, 19, and 21. So just the 17-year-old lives with us full time. And he said to me, if you knew on your wedding day to daddy that he was going to die, would you still do it? And I said, yeah, 100%. First of all, like you wouldn't be here. So you should be glad that I did. And like your dad made me who I am today, and it
Yeah.
put me on this path of what God wanted me to do. God knew that I was going to be a widow and I was going to work with widows. And he's still, like we talked about again, he's like, I just still don't get it. Like, how could you know going into it that like you would have this much pain? Like, how could you do that? I'm like, because I know it's like God's plan. And so even though it's like a life I would have never chosen, I would do it, and God has given me an amazing husband now, to help me in everything I'm doing. So, okay, going back, then we had to take that little side road to how Joel supports me in my ministry. And I'm so thankful. And so I know I'm so very blessed, to have an amazing husband and to not have to go. And I went on a few random dates with people, but not have to go through too much because I've heard all kinds of stories. It's a whole different world than it used to be. So,
Staggering.
anyways, kind of going back to my ministry. So, then another thing, this is the thing I'm the most passionate about right now. So, I decided actually a few months after Luke died that I wanted to write a book. And I started it, and I'm so glad I only wrote 3 chapters because I didn't know what I know now. I needed to go through life before I could write the whole book. So, it's called Widow Goals: Steps to Finding Peace When You Lose Your Spouse. And I wanted it to be like 10% my story, 90% how they can get help and help through Jesus. And so I wrote this book, and it's like 30 different things that people can take at any point, like get out of bed, re-enter social spaces, have an eternal perspective, how to get through the holidays, just basically all kinds of grief stuff that widows and widowers go through. And so I came back to it this past year in 2025. I was like, okay, the 5-year anniversary of Luke's death is coming up. I'm going to publish it on that day. And so it gave me a really big like goal. And so I wrote, I'd written 3 chapters like years ago, and then I wrote 27 chapters within a couple months. And I had an editor who's a friend who wanted to just do it all for free for me, and she edited, and we just like dove into this book, and I was able to launch it. On May 23rd, 2025. And I'd love to just read you like the little dedication because it just kind of shows what like the heart behind this. And it makes me cry, but it's beautiful. So it's dedicated to 2 people. For Luke,
Okay.
my first great love, who entered heaven on May 23rd, 2020. Thank you for 17 beautiful years of marriage and for the gift of our 3 amazing kids. I will never forget your love for us or your unwavering faith in God. You continue to inspire me every day. I love you always. And for Joel, my husband and best friend on this new journey. Thank you for believing in me, loving me, supporting me, and understanding the heart of a widow. I love the fun and adventure you bring to my life. Thank you for making me a better person. I love you always. And it's like this book probably wouldn't be here without both of them. It's like even when Joel and I got engaged, I had given him the wedding band from I had with Luke, and he had it melted down, took the diamonds from the wedding band. I still have the wedding ring for my daughter, but the band, and had them put into the ring from him. And he said, I want you to have diamonds from both men who love you. And I just like, oh, it's so beautiful. Like he gets it. He understands that Luke will always be a part of me. But anyway, so I really worked hard and had an amazing book launch party with about 75 people, over half of them widowed. And we really focused on the know that you were chosen. We read that chapter and really helped to shift things in people's minds that God chose me for this journey. Like he knew like this was going to be part of the plan. And when Luke was sick, I heard a sermon and the pastor said, if God allowed it, I can accept it. And that changed everything for me when Luke was sick. Like, okay, I would never choose this, but God allowed it. Everything travels through God's hands. He either causes it or he allows it. He doesn't cause sickness and death, but he allows it. And so I had to accept it. And so that's really helped me in my life too, is knowing that God allowed this. And so I can accept it. I see a lot of widows who don't accept it. And what good is that? You're still going to live a life of like you're missing your spouse, but you're going to be in this agony of like, I'm not accepting this. And so what happened since I did the book in May is then I decided I want to take this deeper. So I created a workbook. And so the workbook has a lot of questions, a prayer journal, all of these different things. And people across the country started doing the workbook and doing the book and getting together in groups. And I was like, okay, this is good. So then I was like, I'm going to create a leader's guide. So anybody could step in as the leader and lead everyone. So I took a group of widows through it and wrote the guide as I'm going through it with them. And now all three are available and people are purchasing all of them. And my goal is that churches start purchasing the program, and that even if there's no one that's a widow that could lead it, maybe they're all new widows, they're not ready to lead anything, anyone in the church could take the leader's guide and say, I can do this, because it tells them exactly what to say and even how to pray and all of these things. And so my passion right now is I'm just telling people to ask your pastor, how do we support widows? That's all you need to do. Find out if you have something. If you do, I am so thankful for that. But we need support for widows, not only with a program like this, but we need like men in the church stepping up and helping with yard work and cars. And that's one of the hardest things when you're widowed. I thankfully had my dad and brothers, but a lot of people don't. And I even have a friend, she's widowed and she started a nonprofit. And it's where widows go and they go online and fill out a form, and then men in the community volunteer and go help them. That's what we should be doing,
Meals,
right?
to
Like,
repair the window, the roof, repair the washing machine. What is broken? What is broken? What is broken? What is broken?
yeah,
Continue.
yes, we need men, especially to step up and help these women who have no, especially the older widows. Like our church just did this. I recently changed churches because I didn't feel like I was getting this like support for widows in that church. And so
Good,
we
good.
actually do this. We did this 2 weeks ago. We went around to people's houses and most of them were widowed, and we helped fix whatever they needed. And like I got to sit and pray with them, and it was so amazing. And I just don't understand why God mentions widows 103 times, yet so few churches step up and help. It just blows my mind. I don't get it. So I feel like I'm on this path, and I've got a couple other widow friends who are going to work on this together. Like, how can we get churches to step up and do this? Because it is such a lonely place when you're widowed and you feel like nobody gets it. But if I walked into a church and they're like, we have a widow support group, I would be so excited. And so I'm working on it with my own church. I believe we're going to be implementing it soon to get the program going. And then I have other people taking it to their church. And I have a discount for churches. Instead of just them buying it from Amazon, they can come to me and they can get a discount. And so that's on my website as well. If people, I made a whole page on my website all about this program, like what it does, like it's 11 weeks, here's what it is. And so I'm really on this mission to get that support for widows. I also have an online community that I have over 13,000 people on in Facebook that I run. And I love it because all the other ones, you're not allowed to talk about God, but this is my group. So I talk about God all the time and I encourage it. I get like really excited when people are talking about it. And sometimes people leave. They don't like it. That's okay. This is my group. We're going to talk about Jesus. That's the way it is. Like that's why I'm doing it. And it's just been, yeah, such an amazing journey. And people ask me, like, why do you still do this? You're married again. Yes, but I was widowed. I understand. Like, it's kind of like if you're like, well, I don't know, just people think that you're not widowed because you're married again. I'm like, no, I still went through that. And I want to help people because I know how lost you can feel. And I don't know how these people do it without Jesus. Like, that's the only way I got through. And so I have this like burning passion to want to continue helping the widows because there's not enough people doing it. There's not enough people. I remember the first time, I don't remember the exact reference, but there's a Bible verse that talks about God is a defender of widows and a father to the fatherless. And I was like, that's me and my kids. Like God really loves us. He has a really special heart for widows and orphans and my kids without their father. And so I just have this passion to continue to just ask people to examine their church and ask their church, what do we do to support widows? And if you don't have anything, I have my program that's available, or start something yourself. Like we just need something where we can serve widows who are in the darkest place of their life. And I also, when I say widows, I mean widowers as well. I just kind of use the term together, men and women who have lost a spouse. It's a very, very difficult time. And yeah, so that's a little bit about my story. just I feel like I'm on this totally different road. I have my master's in education. I went to school for 6 years to be a teacher, but I'm still using it just in a different way. I'm teaching adults. I teach grief groups
Yes.
like today. There's a
Yes.
senior center, and I'm going to go teach a grief group today there. And
Hey.
I speak at retreats, and just a whole different life than I ever thought I would have. But I'm thankful for it. God has a purpose for each one of us. He knew on the day that I was born that this was going to happen, that I was going to get married, my husband was going to
Yes.
die, and I was going to lead this widow movement. And I feel like I was chosen for that. And I don't regret marrying Luke because it's such an amazing time, and it made me who I am, and it gave me my kids, and it's like we learned so much. And the verse that talks about, like, consider it pure joy when you go through trials. Like, all of these things have made me who I am today, so that I can pour into other people, so that I can give hope to anybody listening today who's going through grief. It doesn't have to be a spouse, like any kind of grief. Like, you're going to get through this. Jesus is the ultimate healer. There's so many like books and things out there, but really it's Jesus. But you have to be willing to do the work too. Another thing people like to do in grief is to just ignore it, like stuff it down, but it doesn't work. It'll still be there 5, 10 years later. I love using this example. Let's say I went to my car and it had a flat tire, and I was like, oh, I'll come back in a year. It'll be better. Well, if I didn't hook up the air and turn on the compressor, it would still be flat, right? And it's the same thing with grief. People do it all the time. They think I'll be better in a year, and
Yes.
they don't do any work. And what I mean by the work is actually feeling the feelings. You've got to. If you're
Yeah.
sad, you got to cry. Like, it doesn't matter if
Mhm.
you're walking down the street. I tell people your healing is more important than what people think of you. Like, if you need to cry, cry. Like, do not worry about it. And so, treating healing like it's your job. And great thing that we have the ultimate healer. So he will be able to heal you. So I just want to encourage anybody going through grief to turn to Jesus and to not shy away from your feelings. Let yourself feel the pain that you have, because it's the only way to get through it. So that's my story.
I love it. You know,
Thanks.
today, uh, I was making some. I normally edit my social media, so today I stumbled upon a post by Alex Sanfilippo, the founder of this very pod match which we've met,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
and so he posted this meme, and he goes and says, when you sit down, so he has this very interesting meme. So when you sit down and you look at the guests talking, so the guest talks, and then you're wondering, you're looking at the guests as if you have the questions with you, and then you don't have any questions. So the meme
Yeah.
is all about me sitting, listening, and figuring out whether I have any question, and yet I don't have any.
Yeah.
But now
That's
the
cool.
joy of this podcast is because it's about God and it's about Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, and He will always lay on my mind things to say, what to say. 100% when I'm hitting the record button, I have no idea what
Right?
will go. All I know is there's that interesting verse in, I think it's John 8 or something, something. I've forgotten the exact, but it's all about the Holy Spirit. You know how it moves. Like when you don't know how it will
Mm.
go. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, something of the sort. Yeah. So here we are, and I'm thankful because I have questions and I have things to say, because this is not like any other podcast. It's about the
Yeah.
Bible. It's about Jesus Christ. So we'll always have. You will not leave here empty.
Right.
It's basically a church, if you may. So all I
Mhm.
wanted to say is, when you look at the Bible and this story that you've given us, it's a beautiful story. You know, in the New Testament, you start with Matthew, then you go to Mark, and then you go to Luke, and then you go to John. You still find Luke there,
Mhm.
and uh, and when you see Luke, you see this is a human being who is equal to the next person who comes after the book of Acts, or rather, this is Paul, because we could literally call Luke a saint. You know why? Because Paul is no longer with us, but we need him every day. Here we need him. We read about him every day. But he's
Mhm.
someone who is dead, but is alive in heaven. That's why the word is in what is written is actually more of the New Testament. So yes, is he dead? Is he dead? Yes, but is he alive? Yes. Is Jesus
Yeah.
Christ in him? Yes. Has he met Jesus Christ? Yes. Are they one? Yes. So he's there, he was there, he's here, and he will still be there in future. So we see Luke in this story the same way. It's like you had the opportunity to meet one of these great men. And why? It's because of the story. He had his time for that. And the beautiful thing is that, first of all, let me say how lucky you are. For us to get spouses is so difficult. And for you, it appears to be so easy. They're just there. You have just to meet them.
Nah,
So
not
with
bad.
Luke, yeah, so with Luke, you meet Luke, and you know, even you can even tell for the first time when you started talking, we knew that was him, and you shared your
Mhm.
life, and you fell in love, and you accepted to be married. And despite that challenge, you knew in your heart somehow God made you know that no, this will be short, but it will be the best. And he did his part. And once he did his part, he also knew. He made arrangements like that, like that, like that. And once it was all done,
Mhm.
he was so lucky enough to have enough time to give us three children. Is it three?
Yes.
Three children, right? And then his time ended like that. But then that began a ministry which now
Mhm.
look at the women that you're talking to. And I'm so glad about this platform, Podmatch. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad about meeting you because we're going to
Yes.
open up another sky here of Africa and Kenya because of your story. Why? Because
Mhm.
what you mentioned is the truth. The lack that there's a gap there of the people, they are children of God who've gone through grief and because of attacks and all that and different variations of stories. Either way, they are now lost one person. My mom also lost her husband in one or another.
Mm.
So you can understand why. And you see, had you not met Luke, then who will talk to these people? How will we listen to you? Right? How will I meet and stop and ask you just three questions over a podcast and not talk to you? The reason why we are here to listen to you and then we help other people. So that's whole tagged on Luke as it is. So he's very much alive. And
Yes.
then the beauty of it is that you are not a widow. So
Mhm.
he's a person whom we emulate. And wherever he is, may his soul truly rest in peace because out of this marriage, we have gotten something which is very divine. We have gotten a key to something for the widows to listen to, something for them to, a reason for them to live and not even die together, but a reason for them to live to
Right.
live. And and another interesting bit is again I mentioned you are very lucky because the minute he goes, God gives you another one in the same route of path, and you're no longer technically you're no longer a widow, but you are. So you're full of life, and how
Mhm.
you've managed to say yes to live with Luke and say yes to the children and to even to the and that is the saddest bit of the story which you've seen. You sitting there with him as he goes, as he transition, as he's passing from this phase to the other phase, which we will meet on later. And it gives us a lot of courage. And I was shedding a lot of tears, but thank God that you've met me when you've met Joel. Now the tears just rolled back and disappeared. I don't know where
Yeah.
they went because it becomes a smile. It becomes a happy life. It becomes a story of you finding closure and accepting that it's all about Jesus Christ and His universe and His world and what He wants us to do therein and what He wants to use this story for His own glory. Why? Because from the life of Luke, we get to preach or teach 1,000 women, 1,000
Mhm.
men. So it is a beautiful story, and I love it so much.
Mm, thank you.
Now, can you tell us what can you tell us? What can you tell us? There's something here we want to point to, and can you see also? There's something here we are seeing about the person that God has given you. It is a very, and I want to tell you, you're very lucky because it's like you're walking with Jesus. Finding a husband who is accepting the other one who is gone and is okay with it because somewhere in his heart he knows it is part of God's work and he's
Mhm.
okay with it. There's an inner peace where you know that is a task. It's a whole ministry, and he
Yes.
comes in and swoops in and becomes an umbrella. You know how difficult it is for to get remarried. It's very difficult without Jesus Christ. But this one is a. It's like you are just placed by God there God took you in the hand, He's just placing you. All right, now you're here. I'm there. Here's the milk. It's like a bird, or with God being handling the nest. So you're just being placed from this tree to the other tree, and life continues. All right. Are you able to tell us? Have you gotten any or with Joel? Do you have children with Joel?
No, no,
Not yet.
I
All right.
don't.
All right.
Mm,
How is
no.
the relationship with the How is the relationship between with the children and Joel right now?
Oh, it's good. Yes,
All
there's
right.
only my youngest lives here.
Okay.
Right now, the other two are one's that has his own apartment and one's in college. But with Peyton, my youngest, it's really good. They do Bible study together, and I love that Joel teaches him things because Peyton, my son, was only 12 when his dad died,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah.
Joel from the beginning has said, "I'm never trying to be your dad. I'm never going to replace it. I'm just another support person in your life." And so I know that they know that they could go to him for any support they need. So it's never going to be like a father son relationship, but it's good.
It's good, right? And
Hmm.
before I get my next question, are you able to tell us how your parents? All right, this is the question which I'm driving at. And are you able to tell us something whether the thing which happened to Luke, the cancer and everything, is it something that has happened before, to the siblings or to his parents, or
No,
is
it's
this
it.
isolated as it?
Yes, isolated. They don't know what caused it. It's not hereditary, so my kids aren't at risk for it. Yeah, so we don't have
And
that
his
to worry
parents
about.
never, no story of the same from his parents. So it just
No.
appeared like that.
Yep. Yeah, we don't know why.
Very unique situation.
Yes, very,
But
very.
well,
Yes.
I'm so happy because of the way you have literally explained to us, your process of overcoming grief and your process of dealing with it, even until now, and the courage that you've given yourself to show up and to start the ministry and to talk to people and all that. Perhaps before I get my next question, are you able to tell us how people can reach you? How can people reach you, and how can
Yes.
people get rid of the book? If
Yes,
you
I'd
can
love
join
to.
that, and then also join that to the question, do tell us about the church where you're going to and whether it is making sense to you.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
if anyone has any questions or wants to talk, I'm happy. If you can email me, michelle@widowgoals.org. And then people can find everything we talked about at widowgoals.org. It has the support program for churches. It has links to my book, my retreat, my podcast. It's all there. And the podcast is called Widowed Too Soon with the number two. And you can find that on any podcast platform. And so I would be happy to connect. I'm also Widow Goals on social media.
Mhm.
So I love connecting with people all over the world and sharing my story. What was the next
Oh,
question? I'm sorry, I didn't get
do
that.
tell us something about the church where you go to, you and your family, and whether you
Oh,
have
yeah,
feel
yeah.
food.
Yes. So, like I said, we changed churches. So we've been there maybe like 3 months, and we love it. This time we decided. So since Joel moved here, we've been looking for a church together. So
Yeah.
several years, and we would go for a little bit and then leave. But we found one we believe is totally ours. We became members. We go to Bible study. We have community groups, and I love the way it's called Northwest Gospel. How we're really, helping widows and people in our area. So we're really happy to be at this new church, loving it.
It has done the thing again. Please say that again.
Oh, you didn't hear any
Oh,
of that?
no.
Oh,
It does
okay.
done the thing with
Um,
the thing in Africa.
yes, no, it's okay. So our church is called Northwest Gospel, and we've been
All right.
there a few months, and we decided to completely dive in, become members, participate, host a group at our home, and go to things where we're serving widows, and we really love it there. So it's been a great experience.
All right. That's amazing. Now, before I ask you the question about the Bible, just want to talk about something interesting, and this is about your audience, all right, or the people whom you talk to every day. We want to see the experience of them and where they are, something of the sort. But before I talk about that, because we've done, you, your family, and all that. I just want to say on behalf of the universe, I really am sorry for what you've gone through as a human being, all right? And my condolences to your entire family, all right?
Thank you.
And I'm thankful to Jesus Christ because of you. We have a story to tell the other human beings, okay? And I want to thank you as well. Why? Because you accepted to marry someone and you fell in love with that person, right? And you watched the person fade away and you still decided to stick around, not run away. Okay, that gives me hope and that gives me a lot of faith and strength and courage. And I know other listeners are also admiring that about you. So I want to say thank you for that because it's not easy. You go to marry, then you ask yourself so many questions. All right. You're supposed to run with the children. You cannot run. You're supposed to go on vacations. You can't go. But it's all happiness, bittersweet, bittersweet, bittersweet. But you did something here which your children will never repeat. You decided to stick with the marriage. So them they can never falter. They will always stick,
Yeah.
no matter how hard. There's no way anyone else which I've known who go through nothing worse that you've gone through. You're the benchmark. So I want to
Oh,
say
wow.
thank you. Yeah, you are the benchmark because you will look at it. Everyone, I will tell the truth. They might not tell you. You might not think you have friends, but all the neighbors and everyone, they're just looking at you and say, "Well, look, if she did it, I can do it." Because someone is battling alcoholism, all right. Someone else is battling ABCD, and this in your case is unique. Someone else, I've just had a guest right now who had the first marriage, and he's a gentleman called Mr. Brad Church. He had the first marriage just now a few hours ago, and then the wife fell mentally ill, and in the family is something that it has occurred, it has occurred, it has occurred. Okay, it's a battle. So they've got children, but it's a battle. Ultimately, it ends in divorce. You understand? So in your case, you've held so much. You've held so much together. It doesn't make sense to me how you've done it. I can only say it is God because, but for that reason, I just want to be the person to say thank you. You don't get to hear thank you, but honestly, thank you for doing it. Why? Because I have a reason to have an episode with you. Why? Because of that listener who wants to believe. And there are so many. Let me now even open up your mind. We have listeners in Asia who are Indian, from Pakistan, from they have no idea who is Jesus Christ, but they know they've been mentioned of God in Old Testament. So it aligns and then it gets lost. But you are here telling them of a story of how I have lost my husband. How do I start? You give us hope, you give us strength. So
Mhm.
thank you for holding on. You are both of you are like saints because you've gone through the whole process of the New Testament, being crucified. You've been done what? No wonder you're being taken to a place where you're doing the thing with the cross, just to feel the pain of Jesus Christ on that place. The pain. No wonder he's crying. Eloi, Eloi, he's crying. But then again, he decides, no, I will do it, and I will. And once he does it, and the third day, we get the Holy Spirit, and
Yeah.
the thing becomes wonderful. So I want to say thank you for that, and I want to encourage you that life is better. You are better. You look happier. Thank you for your life because with this one is something that will empower so many women and men. I haven't had a story like this since I was born. I haven't seen some
Really?
a perspective. No,
Wow.
this is a new one. Why? Because you are an element of a story who was stuck there, who was not left, right? Who is very sad, but and then God just comes and sweeps you with your feet and gives you another replacement immediately. Not a replacement, but a second chance. And you're so happy. So it's like I had tears and then yeah, disappeared. So no tears. So with you every day is like, and then the luckiest bit, you don't have to go to work like physical, like you have a husband who is allowing you to do God's work.
Yep.
That is someone who's God sent because there's no way someone who's not from heaven can allow you to do God's work. You're being allowed full time. So why? Because the ministry that you do is so important because of the many people whom we are now going to talk about. Now, this last question before we get to the other one about the Bible, please tell us when you started the ministry. because that's the whole point of this whole event. When you started the ministry and then you first started to impact lives, from the first life that you impacted to now, tell us about the experience of the people who've listened to you. You've
Mm,
mentioned to me someone from England. So let us see, show us these people, what they've said, who
mm.
you touched, whom did you even talk to, what did they say, what were they going through. So then that way you are able to see Jesus Christ through you, because that's how we do it. You know.
Yeah, there's
So
so
please do tell
many.
us,
Um,
please, please.
yes, I believe the podcast is in like 120 countries. And I've
Yes.
heard personally from a lot of them, but I'll give you a couple of the biggest ones.
Mm,
I heard from a woman who I don't know if she really knew Jesus at the time. She reached out to me. I ended up doing a grief program with her, but when she reached out to me, she told me that she was going to end it all, like that she um, just wanted to die, but through working with her and my impact, that changed. I had another woman not that long ago. It was after I wrote the book. She had reached out. Somehow we connected. I don't remember her exact story. And I sent her a free copy of the book because I have a way to do that with e-copies. And she said, I wanted to end it all until I read your book. And it helped me feel like I'm not alone. Um, so many people have told me I was just searching for something. They type in like Christian widow podcast. We're the only one that I know of. It's a Christian widow podcast, and they found it and they talk about I listened all night and it helped me not feel alone. I mean, there's so many stories of people, um, Tanzania. I've interviewed a few people from South Africa on my
mhm,
podcast. I mean,
mhm.
literally, like just all over the world. Just people saying that this work has helped them so much to not feel alone. I mean, that's the biggest thing is like, I thought I was alone. And then I found your podcast and I realized I'm not alone. And I found healing and all the things. And so it is crazy from that first time, like, starting a podcast, I was just like, I don't know who's going to listen. And then you get your first email of somebody who like, wow, I just wanted to say thank you. This really impacted me. I get a lot of thank yous because I do something kind of unique. So for widows, the hardest days are your anniversary, your would be anniversary with your husband, your birthday, and their death anniversary. So I collect emails. And so I put it out every week in my group. Like, I want to support you on these days. And so I have created, it's an automated system, but I pray over them. And I'm like, prayer
Yes.
transcends all space and time. So you're getting this prayer right now. And so
Yes.
on those days, they get
Mm,
it. And they respond to me so often. Thank you. No one else remembered. Thank you. That meant so much to me. Yesterday, I mean, it's crazy how the smallest thing. Yesterday, a woman said, I had done a post about my book, and she said, I'm going to have to ask for that for Christmas. And she went on to say how she has no money. And I said, send me your address. I'm going to send it to you because I can use my nonprofit to send gifts and things like that. And she wrote, I'm trying to find it. She wrote to me about how she feels so loved. And like this is what she said. I just said, she said, hi, I'm still in total astonishment. You would send me your book. I feel blessed right now and haven't felt that way since he passed. Thank you, Michelle. You're my angel. Just from saying, can I have your address? I'm going to send you a gift. I'm going to send you the book. And then I tell her it's not always going to hurt so bad. And she's like, I needed to hear that. Thank you for giving me some hope. There was another one yesterday. She's actually, let's see, she lost her husband in August, married for 20 years. I am a South African living in Oxfordshire in England, and she's alone. And she goes on to talk about this. I could use your help. So then we just start doing voice messages. I love doing voice messages instead of just
ah,
texting. It's faster and it's more personal. And she
mm,
she said, I'm a Christian, but really upset with God that this happened. I know I need to accept it. And I told her, like, it's okay to be angry at God. That's okay. Tell him your feelings. Like, he's okay with that. And then we talk some more, and then I see I have more. Oh yeah, I said, give me your email, I'll send you an e-copy. And she's like, you're amazing, I'd love to keep in touch. Like, these are just in the last couple days. Like, there's so many, and I'm like, God, why? Like, I'm just one person, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. And it's crazy how one little thing that you think isn't that big of a deal, like me saying I'll send you a book, doesn't cost much money at all. And she feels like loved, and she hasn't felt that way since her husband died. Like, I'm just, wow. There's just so many. Um, And I try to help all that I can. Some days it's overwhelming, but it's just like one at a time. I love doing the voice messages instead of email. Like I don't like that as much. So I do prefer people send me Facebook messages or Instagram messages so then I can just talk to them. And then the other day, yesterday, somebody told me they've been following me since their husband died and how much it's helped them. Because I'll read to you because we're going where the Holy Spirit leads and however much time we need, right? So I'm going to read to you
Yes,
what
all the time.
I I
Really.
wrote. So yesterday was the 23-year anniversary of when Luke asked me to marry him. So I'll tell you what I wrote.
Mhm.
And for those of you on video, if you aren't, there's our picture. And it says, 23 years ago today, Luke and I were decorating a Christmas tree when he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. It was one of the best days of my life. Recently, one of my kids asked me, so we're talking about, if you knew you're on your wedding day that daddy was going to die and all you had to go through, would you still marry him? The answer is 1,000,000% yes. Luke made me who I am today, gave me three amazing children, made me laugh, and gave me so many amazing memories. I would never choose to have him die, but I know if God allowed it, I can accept it. And Luke is completely healed, running on his two legs. He was an amputee, if you didn't know, playing baseball, laughing, and hanging out with Jesus. I'm so happy for where he is. His death also set my life on a new path. I went from teaching kids to helping widows. I have watched God turn my ashes into beauty and turn my mourning into dancing, and I love helping others find the same healing. I will always love you, Luke. Thanks for asking me to marry you. And I had so many widows telling me how much that post helped them, what a good perspective, that helps me. And it's all I'm doing is sharing my life. It's interesting going back to when Luke was sick. I remember being on a run and I felt like I heard God say, "You're going to go through something." This is before he was sick. "You're going to go through something and I want you to do it publicly." And I'm like, okay. So his whole journey of going through cancer was all public. I would do big updates on Facebook. I had a podcast and I turned it into updates about him. Like everything was public. And so I think God kind of prepared me that I was going to have this life in the public where people could see him. So anyways, there's, so many comments on and on and on. I'm sorry for loss. I hope to be able to find some peace. Right now I'm dying inside. Thank you for your story. Your story is beautiful, and it's clear that your love you shared with Luke will live on through you and your children. That's the kind of my love my husband and I have. Love this, and I've had the same experience. Beauty from ashes. God has been my strength. So, anyways, there's there's so many blessings in like hearing people's stories, and some days it's overwhelming that there's so many of them. But I know it's it's a privilege to be where I'm at and to know that this was all part of God's plan, and it's not over yet. There's so much more work to do, and I'm excited for where the future goes. I'm going to launch another podcast, not just for widows. It's going to be called Grief Goals, and it's for all of grief, and so I can reach more people. So that's going to be launching in a couple of weeks, hopefully, to just expand what I'm doing because it doesn't have to be limited to widows and widowers. So that's my next project, is writing another book as well. So
That question was, I asked it so that wherever Joel is after I publish this video can watch it,
yes.
because you see, this is what he's supporting. This is how he's serving in the kingdom of God. And then as he watches this, I also want to tell him thank you for this work. Why? Because look at this. You have Luke who is gone, and then we have all these women who are playing with death and life, death and life, death and life. So by this one death, then the women can find life. Because all of the stories you mentioned, oh, I just feel like dying. Oh, I just feel like dying. Oh, I just feel like dying. Then they are now alive. Then they are alive. Such a delicate mathematics which can only involve God, because God knows why. Because God values life more. The devil wants to kill, but God does not want it, and this is why it has happened like this. So this is life. So one move, you can imagine just one gesture has given the spark of life to one woman.
Mm-hmm.
Just one. So what if, what if a face to face? What if a whole conversation? What if a whole podcast? What if a whole group of women did this? What if? So you've
Mm.
just sparked it to other women, because I'll tell you the truth. You will have 100 and more women who will start doing the same thing you do. Then
Mm-hmm.
whenever there is a ministry, it means there is a gap. And as you told us clearly and truthfully, no church, including ours, has a place for widows. We ourselves, we pray so that people don't get widowed. But what happens next? All right, there's no program. There are no programs left for that in the entire world. It's very few.
Yes.
That's why you're doing it. So you can see this is life. So you're giving us life, 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 life. So it is literally, there is grief about Luke going, but there's the more that we see here is thank you Jesus Christ. Because of Luke, we see life, life in England, life in South Africa, life in Tanzania, life. You- for the men and women who are serving in military, no one will go take their pistol and blow the head. They will choose life, life, because what you told us is true. There's some loneliness to it, but you come and give light to it. This is life. So that's amazing. So this is a thank you to what Joel is doing because of accepting it to be done like
Mm-hmm.
this, and it's truly God sent, because there is no way, you cannot see it any other way.
Right.
And this is why also God made it so perfect, so that, because if you have grief and you want to go and find someone else with grief, you are absorbing that story. I am absorbing this story, and you cannot do that without someone else to go and talk to every day, and God just comes and gives you joy, and then
Yes.
it becomes so easier to deal with that lady in England, that lady in Tanzania. So it's a pure mathematics of God. It's amazing, and I love God because of how He calculates things.
Yeah.
He knows, and everyone is always sorted to be able to move forward with it. Now, let me now talk about your ministry, because before we go to that question, this is a very important ministry in the kingdom of God, and you can see it. You have seen it. Today, Luke has known it, you have known it, and Joel have known it, and your children will know it. But before I tell you about the ministry, please tell us a bit about the experience of your parents and the parents of Joel in from their perspective. How did they take the whole life? How did they see all things? How did they react? Tell us. We want to see from your
Mm-hmm.
side, from your parents of your side, and the parents of Luke's side. How did they? You can start with your side and side of Luke, and then we'll go through your ministry. Yes, please do.
How did they react to his death? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. How did they cope with the whole process of, you getting married? I mean, everyone was happy,
Oh,
but then
getting
again,
married.
these
Yeah.
stories began, the challenges to the death,
Yes.
and then to moving on, because you appear to have gone through it all well, but these are also people who are around you, and we've seen the life of the children, and
Mm-hmm.
we've seen you. So we would like also to see their perspective. How did they experience the whole thing? All right. Did they
Mm.
take it, like, did they go through it well? Did they with courage? All right. Did it affect them so much from your side? And the very people who Luke called their son also, we would want to know how did
Mm-hmm.
they go through the whole thing, because it must have been difficult for them as well. So you'll tell us on their behalf, because also they are not here. So in your own words,
Mm-hmm.
you can go.
Yes. So we do have all the parents still living.
Okay.
So, my parents were a huge support.
Amen. Amen.
To
Amen.
when Luke died, my mom was right there. I think my dad was there in the
Mhm.
other room. I don't know, but they and my brothers and everything would come over and help me with
God
everything.
bless them. God
My
bless
mom
them.
would come over and make sure I would eat, help me take care of the
Mhm.
kids. Just
God
very
bless them.
supportive. They were also there during all of his sickness and
God bless them.
his parents were also very supportive. We all lived in the same area at that time. And so his mom was over
Mhm.
almost every day, bringing him whatever he
God bless
needed,
them.
just sitting with him,
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
believers. And, obviously when he died, it was very hard on everybody. His
God
family,
bless
his
them.
parents, I think they stayed about a year and then they moved away to where his sister's at, which was really hard on my
Mhm.
kids to lose their grandparents. And they were about 3 hours away. So they'd still see him a couple times a year, maybe more than that.
Mhm.
Um, you know, uh, I stayed in good contact with them. They recently moved to Oklahoma, and so I haven't seen them as much, but we've been talking.
Cool.
Unfortunately, Luke's dad is now in hospice, so he may be passing away in the next year or so.
All right.
Um, but they were, as far as me getting remarried, it was amazing. So I called
Yes.
Luke's mom before, so Joel was coming to visit, and I didn't want
Mhm.
her to see it on social media, hear from the kids. Like, I wanted her to
Yes.
know from me. So I said,
Out
you know,
of
there's
respect.
this man I went to college with. He's coming to visit, you know. She's like, okay, you know, and she goes, well, I didn't think you'd be single forever. Cause it was kind of an awkward conversation. And then she wanted to, you know, as I started dating him, they wanted to know more about him. And then they met him.
Mhm.
Well, actually, that was after we got married. So they actually, Luke's sister, nieces, nephews, his mom, they all came to my wedding with Joel. So they were there. And we actually did this thing during the ceremony where the first thing, so I walked down the aisle and then we said we wanted to address everybody. I saw another widow do this. And so we said we want to like basically address the, you know, the elephant in the room that
Mhm.
neither family would be here if there hadn't been grief, the death of a
Yes.
marriage, the death of a father. So it's okay if you're not feeling just happiness today, because grief and joy can coexist. Because my kids
Yes.
were having grief. Actually, my daughter told me it was one of the hardest days of her life. And I was like, it
Yeah.
was. You seemed so happy. Like she did a
Wow.
great speech. She was singing all these things. And she said, but it was like, you've moved on and we never will. Like, you have a
Yeah.
new
Mhm.
husband. We'll never have another dad. And so that was a really hard day.
Mhm.
But, anyways, his family, Luke's family, was there. You know, they met Joel's family. Everybody got along. And then since then, like, they've come to our house. We've had dinner with them. They really like Joel, and they especially love how Joel's treating the kids, and they know that he's financially providing for us.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's part of the reason that they love him. So they've been great through all of it. My parents, of course, like they were so excited when they met Joel. Like, you know, it was kind of like after Luke died, I feel like my dad felt responsibility again for me, you know, for everything.
Yeah.
And he was happy to give that to Joel. um, and know that, you know, and they're getting older and they want to
Yes.
know that there's someone to take care of me now. And so, yeah, they were all for the whole thing. My brothers love him. He actually Joel works for my brother. Yeah,
Okay.
everything is really, really sweet with my family, Luke's family, Joel's family, and then Joel's parents. I mean, his is a long story that I won't get into all the stuff, but there was a lot of heartbreak in the dissolving of his
Yes.
marriage and all of that.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
his family was very excited about me, and
Okay.
they're very supportive of my
Amen.
ministry. They've
God
given my
bless
book
them.
to many people. They talk about it at their
God bless
church,
them.
you know, so that's been great. And so his family was very excited about me. And actually, one of his aunts, I saw her this summer. She said, and it's crazy because my family has said the same thing to me. She said, we feel like that verse, what the locust stole, God replaced, something about
Yeah.
that. You know what verse I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
the
Yes.
years the locust stole, he's
Yes. Yes.
replacing him.
Yes.
She's like,
Yeah.
you're that for him. And I'm like, my family says that
Yes.
about him.
Yeah.
So it's just this beautiful, beautiful story of like, yeah, all of our families have been very supportive of our marriage, and they very happy. So my family is very, very happy that I found someone. And I guess the other day my brother said to Joel, I haven't ever seen her this happy, like ever.
Amen.
So
Amen.
it's like the joy of my youth even more, because the years of dealing with
Yes.
cancer, you know, and I never even went into all of that, but Luke was not just sick
Mm.
with cancer. Like the 13 years in
Yeah.
between, he had so
Mm.
many things. We were in the hospital all the time, a couple times a
So
year,
many
like with
reasons.
different
Yeah.
things. And so
Mm.
it was a hard marriage. There's a lot of really hard things. And so I felt weighed down by that. And I had to work full time, and all I
Yeah.
wanted to do was be
Mm.
home with my kids, but I had to. It was this really hard time period, like 17 years of really hard.
Yeah.
And so
Mm.
I'm thankful to be in a place where things aren't as hard as they used to be, for sure.
You know, all of us do have our own personal tests, which are so unique to be able to make us to serve God right now, the way we are doing it. So we cannot falter when we are here. And this is why when the Israelites in the book of Exodus, they are leaving this Egypt, they still have to do rounds, 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 so they can be trained by problem and trouble and trouble. So by the time they enter in Canaan, then they know how to fight. They know how to pray. They know how not to sin. They know how to respect God. They know how to keep God the presence of God there. They know if the presence of God leaves, then it will be trouble. So
Mhm.
this one you have passed with flying colors. You see all ticks. You know,
Good.
no wonder you're a teacher. So
Yeah.
no wonder you're being crowned. On your head. You've excelled in all ways. And this episode, this story is about healing. It's about completeness, so that when your children will look at me and someone from another country they've ever heard of in Kenya just talking to you about this, they will see. We want them to see why.
Yeah.
We want this episode to answer the question, why me? Why us? Why to us? We want to reconcile that with God's mission. And this is why we want to talk now about your ministry. Tell us now, you said you're going to meet some few people in January.
Mm.
Where are you going to meet them? Why? And when?
Yeah. Yes, that's January 22nd in Dallas, Texas.
Mhm.
Um, we have spots for 80 widows. We have 70 that are signed up right now, which is exciting. And the purpose is to get people together so they don't feel so alone. There's
Yes.
something very unique when you walk into a room of people, first of all, Christians, but then even deeper, when you all have lost a spouse, there's something really deep that you just connect with.
Mhm.
And the whole theme of the retreat is mourning to dancing. And we're even going to
Mhm.
have dancing. We're going to have some line dancing, some country dancing at the last night.
Mhm.
But the theme is like, we want to show those of us who have been through this. So for me, like, there's five more other leaders that have similar stories, and they're on the other side of it. They're going to be speaking. We are going to have small groups where we are pouring into. So there's going to be like a leader for every 4 to 5 people. And we're actually separating those out by cause of death, because suicide is very different than cancer and different from accidents and heart attacks. And so they're separated out by that so they can really relate to the people in their group. We're going to be pouring into them, praying. I've got a prayer team coming. We're getting a prayer team together too, that we're emailing people like updates, what's going on, getting my church involved. And it's just going to be 3 nights, 4 days of pouring into these people who are in the most broken place. We even have a couple people coming who they not only lost their husband, but they lost their child as well, like in a car accident. We have a few of those. Like, they're in this broken place. And so we've seen it the last 2 retreats. Like, Jesus meets them in this deeper way when they're surrounded by all of us. It's like those of us who've been through it, we're saying, you're going to get through this. Like, we're here, kind of like mentor widows, basically. Like, we've been through this, and we're here to help get you through it. And we're going to give you tools, and we're going to give you stories, and we're going to give you friendships. And most of all, we're going to give you Jesus. And that's what the whole time is about. We're going to have breakout sessions where they go into smaller groups based on topics they choose. Maybe it's parenting, maybe it's dating, blending families. We're going to have very specific topics. But the point is to gather and make friendships and to get deeper healing. And so it's the third one we've done, and I'm very excited about it. It's a lot of work. Wasn't sure if I was going to do it again. I was like, God, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to give me someone to help me. Okay, I'm interviewing this girl on a podcast. It was my second time interviewing her, and she goes, if you ever want to do a retreat, I'd love to help you. Like, I'm not working right now. I'm not in school. And I was like, really? I have no money to pay you. And she goes, I don't care. I want to do it. So her name's Rayma, and she is my retreat coordinator. And God literally handed her to me, and she does most everything. I mean, I'm doing like content and gathering the people. She's doing all the little details I don't like. So it's great. I'm so excited about that because the last 2 have been life changing. So it's gonna be great.
Uh, Michelle, let me tell you, God loves you very much, a lot, a
Mm.
lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. And help will always come your way day by day, like it did come to David in his adventures, in his days. All right, everywhere. It's so easy for you. Your husband is there. The support for your ministry is there. Work employees are here. No salary, no, just free, 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 free. You pass this. You pass the test. If you want to know how difficult it is for this thing to happen to anyone else or people, if you come to Africa and you give us a scenario of a widow in traditional setups, and then this one has lost her husband, it's pure drama. It is war. Both families are fighting. Nothing is
Mm.
reconciliating. You lose children. The devil works there perfectly. And but here Jesus Christ is with you. For he has never left you. He will never leave you, because the mission here is so important. And this is so important. It's unbelievable about how how Jesus Christ is just with you and you have all the solutions with you there. So now I want to make a special calling before we talk about the Bible, that question about the Bible. I want to make a special calling to the listeners. If you are around this area, I will put a website for Miss Michelle here. Do any donations you can. This is a pure ministry, which because the balance here is the life of all the widows. There are a lot of them, especially in the military and in the law
Hmm.
enforcement areas and all that. There's a lot of killing, and anyone who is dying, that's grief.
Yes.
So there's a lot of wars. There's so many countries. All right. So this is just a preparation, and you can see she has managed to do one. So yes, we're now going to pile another task here and make it national. So if you are there, if you can help, reach out to Miss Michelle. Why? For the sake of that widow, for the sake of that person who is going through grief. All right. And I also want to call a special request to this government of yours. I know they have a wing. I read about a wing there about something to do with faith-based wing, something of the sort from the government. I think Miss Paula White is there, something of the sort, but they do support, they should be supporting ministries like this because you are a contribution to the society. Why? You are going to talk about, to women, to people who, after you've made contact with them, they will not commit suicide. That's an empowerment of citizenship in one way or another, you know. So I do call upon, you know, the government to take heed and reach out to you and support you financially because these things you are doing should be national, not because everywhere else there's grief, people are
Yeah.
dying, and it appears that God has given you the grace when you just say hi. My name is Michelle. That's it. That person is sold. That person will not die. And then that person just wants to talk to you. You go directly to the heart because that is the voice, the still small voice of Jesus Christ. That deep wail at that cross, that deep wail, that pain, that is the pain he had. And that is the voice which you have. It should be heard. People should support you. So my humble plea to the government, to that faith council, something of the sort, is to reach out to you and help you. And also everyone who is working with Joel to help him so that he doesn't shake in his place of financial support because this ministry is so important. I have given it an hour and 30 minutes on my I have sat here to listen to it because it's so important to the kingdom of God. I had to dedicate to create time, you know, special time zone for it, just for it to be recorded because it's so urgent to the people. So I want to make that special play to everyone. Don't even send money to my ministry. Don't even donate to me. This way, just give everything to this ministry because it will do my work very easy. If someone does not kill themselves, then they have the opportunity to live and serve God in one way or another. Then we'll have many, many, many Miss Michelles. And the world will be a better place, you understand. This is why we are doing what we are doing, you know. So that aside, so this ministry of yours will go like a wave like that.
Yes.
Might Joel might join you as well because
Hmm.
when you are two of you, it's even sweeter and better because it's more fun like that. The children like that. People. I see people like coming with flyers. They are helping you to
Yes.
arrange the flyers and the juice and the chairs and the setup and the sound system, and all of you are worshiping God, dancing to
Yes.
God, and in the process, Jesus Christ is filled in these people.
Yes.
These
I
people will
feel
not
like
die.
yes, I want to tell you one other thing that I just remembered
Please.
of how God is using all of this. So, my daughter Haley is 19. God has given her the most amazing singing voice. She leads worship at her college, and she is coming to the retreat to lead worship and also to be on the prayer team.
Yes.
And also, she's starting a ministry for the kids of widows. And
Yes.
so she's going to be
Mhm.
launching it. Then she's going to start an Instagram page where she's talking to them. She's doing her songs she wrote for her dad, and she's pointing them to Jesus. She was in a some kind of prayer night at her college, and she felt like God told her it was time for her to step up. And she said, because she's watched me, she knows she can do it. And so she is going to be leading the kids of widows because she wishes there were kids she could have talked to when her dad died. And so
Mhm.
she's launching that. So that's just another piece of how God's using it in other people's lives. So I'm excited for her to get her ministry going as well.
Again, you're so lucky. You've now managed to make it, and now your children are following suit. That's the biggest miracle ever. It's even more than the story of Luke because it is a joy of us as parents to see our children
Yes.
do actually what, because it's a difficult thing. Most people see children and they spiral away but here you're so blessed, Miss Michelle. So may God bless your daughter and may God give her the grace to do it. So as I told you, it's a whole ministry. So all of them will join you and it will go and it will
Yes.
go. Someone will sing, someone will do this. So you're not alone, and this guy is a saint. Is someone who is speaking to us today. I have never met him, but it's like I know him because of the work that you are doing. It's part of the story, and he will never
Yes.
stop being part of the story. As I mentioned earlier, we read about Paul, Luke, James, Peter, but they're long dead. But they're in the Bible for what reason? For that,
Yes.
for the Spirit. We are talking about the Spirit of God in them, which is still alive. And that's how we are able to communicate with God because we see God through you. So I'm really happy, and this is a closure to the parents of Mr. Luke.
Mhm.
It is a closure to the children, an acceptance to Joel, an acceptance for you, a closure to you, and another chapter which is opening, a chapter to doing God's business, which is more greater than our business. And as you can
Mhm.
see, I've taken you through a very short stint, and you've seen. You've even the one who's read it to us. This one is saying this one. I was almost dying. I will not look at how many there. The work is too much. This is what God is saying about the harvest being too much. And had He not prepared us to us like this, if I talk to you in the year 2000, you're going to do this work, you will have refused. You will have not gone through it. But now your child can take up the cross and also walk and do that and walk like that. And we are so grateful about this work in the name of Jesus Christ. May God give you healing. May God give you peace of mind. May God give you joy and happiness, more happiness. May God add you more weight, more. They call it fat in the Bible. Where you have a lot of food, a lot of everything, and it's
Mhm.
joyous. It is amazing how this thing will go, and we can only just sit here and support you because this is a grace. Only you have gone through it, only you understand how to do it, and only you understand with God how to do it. So God will just use you to do it. That's how it is the kingdom of God. We are all like that, and I'm so happy about it. Now, that aside, as we come to the end of this wonderful episode, I know you are born again and you own a Bible. Please tell us, how do you read your Bible from one Sunday to another now that you found your new church?
Mhm. Yeah, I do own physical Bible, but I actually use the Bible app the most.
All right.
So I love that, like the verse of the day, and then they have
Mm,
like little teachings that go with it. So that's what I do mostly. But right now, I've really been into learning more about heaven. That's something that when Luke died, I read a lot of books about heaven, and I'm currently reading one called Imagine Heaven, and just getting more excited about what's to come, and that this world is just this temporal place. Like sometimes I still question God when I see like really bad things happening all the time. Like, God, why?
yeah.
And I
Mhm,
always hear this world is not our home. And just like
mhm.
focusing again on it's not our home. So I've been doing a lot of this book has a lot of verses from Revelation and all about that. But yeah, and I find that God speaks to me through people, through nature. A lot of time I like to go on runs and I feel like I hear God's
Okay.
voice. And like I've said before, I never hear an audible voice, but it's
Mm.
like thoughts in my head.
We understand it.
So
Mhm.
mostly, yeah, even though I got this spiral Bible where you can take notes. I do that sometimes too, where you can like fill it up. But I would say mostly I use the Bible app and just, see what God has to say to me through either there's different studies or the verse of the day, and focusing on that and focusing on like I tried to do before like the whole Bible in a year, and I think that's great, but it became like a chore. And I'd rather sit and like really ponder and like absorb,
Mhm.
meditate on the verses instead of
Mhm.
just rush through. And so I do more of that than trying to just get through the checklist of everything I have to do. So,
Wonderful. And today, even listeners, today we have two guests who have just mentioned how it is important for you to meditate on the Word
yes.
of God. you meditate, so it becomes inside you, in your mind. You get your mind renewed, and you absorb it. Then you can apply it practical, slowly by slowly, and that becomes amazing. As we wind up this wonderful episode, and I say thank you, as I say thank you to Miss Michelle. Is there anything that you would want to tell these listeners? Because I know you have a wonderful ministry going ahead. And before you answer that question, what is this name that you said about your new podcast ministry? What's the name you gave to the podcast?
Grief goals.
Grief Codes. All right. I might see
Yeah.
how to play around that word, or to make so I can get a nice title for this episode, so that it
Yes.
can accommodate everyone who is going through grief, including
Yes.
the widows and the widowers, because all
Yeah.
of them are children of God. And through you, we are able to understand how to navigate those waters. You are our pilot or our captain. You will tell
Oh
us
well.
3 degrees not go like this. Oh, no, wait, there's a don't hit the rock.
Yeah.
Navigate like this, or else you'll end up like the Titanic. Yeah. So anyway, is there anything else you'd want to tell these wonderful listeners as we wind up?
Mhm. So one of my favorite quotes that I tell people is, "What we feel, God can heal." What we feel, God can heal. And so, what that means is to let yourself feel all the feelings and let God heal it. And I'm going to tell you where that came from. When I was in grief counseling, my grief counselor would always say, "What we feel, we can heal." And I said that for a couple years on my podcast. And I felt like God said, "No, no, no, I heal it." So I changed the quote to "What we feel, God can heal." And so I want to encourage every listener to feel the feelings so that God can heal you.
Also, I want to say, may God bless all the Christian counselors out there for giving us hope and for giving
Yes.
us a reason to believe and a reason to live again. As you
Yes.
all can hear, we are coming to the end of the episode. My children are crying in a very interesting way because I think it's 10:40, so
Oh,
they are about to go to sleep. But
yeah.
I thank God. Why? Because He has held their peace, and we have been
Yes.
able to talk well and record perfectly just for you to listen to this show. So, listeners, thank you so much for your patience and for being with us. Please remember to support this ministry of Michelle. And if you know anyone who is near her ministry, who wants to go and work there, this is so big. I cannot even begin to tell you. I cannot tell you it's so big and it's so national. So if you are in whichever state and you want to replicate the same and connect in one way or another, if it is air tickets you want to provide, if it is ground, if it is hosting premises, if it is a sound system, this is a place which I can tell you it's a whole compound which needs to be covered so that people can talk literally even overnight with the whole music. So that calls for food, that calls for music, calls for nice, location. If you have anything you can provide, God will meet you immediately by Himself. Because on that day, someone will not die. On that day, someone will meet Jesus Christ face to face, like all of us have done today, even you yourself. So with those few words, that's the end of the episode. See you on the next one, and may God truly bless you and keep you alive. And for those who are going through grief, don't worry. Jesus Christ is here for all of us. He can fill any void. He created all of us, even that grief. The same feeling you're feeling, He created it. So He knows it and He knows why. And He will give you the answer you need. Just believe in Him, and He will give you all the answers you need, including all the answers you will hear from Miss Michelle. All right? So see you on the next one, guys. And that's a wrap.